A stunning admission from Donald Trump over the weekend in his interview with Maria Bartiromo of Fox, admitting that, yes, the United States seems to be heading into a recession or even worse. But Donald Trump then said basically, look, China plans 100 years in advance. So yeah, there may be some short-term pain. So after Donald Trump admitted we're basically heading into a recession, a great recession, or even potentially a depression, and all the economic indicators are pointing that way as well as a result of Donald Trump's failed policies, the erratic tariffs, the chaos that he's creating. You then had all the MAGA Republicans and people in Trump's administration trying to normalize this. But first, let me just share with you when Donald Trump's asked, are you expecting a recession this year? Just watch what he says. Let's play it.
And I want to ask you about Ukraine and the blow up the other day with Zelensky. Let me stay on the economy for a moment, because there are rising worries about a slowdown. You've got the Atlanta Federal Reserve saying we're going to have a contraction in the first quarter. Look, I know that you inherited a mess, and you said that the other night.
I've only been here,
but are you expecting a recession this year?
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition, because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. And there are always periods of, it takes a little time. It takes a little time. But I think it should be great for us. I mean, I think it should be great. It's going to be great ultimately for the farmer. Don't forget,
Just to be very clear, here was Donald Trump's promise that he made to the American people during the campaign that prices would drop on day one, just so you can see it.
So when I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one. We will end Kamala's war on American energy, and we will drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill.
So then they bring in Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, who's asked on Meet the Press, look, the CEOs of Target and Best Buy are warning that these tariffs are causing prices to surge, not just in the short term, but in the long term, and things are getting bad. Lutnick, what's your response? And then Lutnick's like, well, we're going to balance the budget. And yeah. Inflation may go up, but whatever. I mean, we all need short-term pain. Here, play this clip.
Lumber. The CEOs of Target and Best Buy this week warned that they will have to increase prices as a result of tariffs. Do you acknowledge that prices will go up for consumers because of these tariffs?
I think it's important for people to realize that we run $2 trillion deficits, and Donald Trump is going to try to balance the budget of the United States of America. And when you balance the budget of the United States of America, you drive interest rates down 150 basis points, 1.5%. You're going to have mortgages come smashing down. The cost of your home will come smashing down. We're going to drill, baby, drill, and drive down the price of energy. That's coming down. So these two massive moves are going to happen. And you know who's going to pay for that? Tariffs and outside countries who just leech off of us, lean on us, earn money off of us. They've got to start to pay. President Trump wants the American people to start to understand the External Revenue Service should start to pay. Yes, some products that are made foreign might be more expensive, but American products will get cheaper. And that's the point. Buy American, made by great Americans. We're going to bring manufacturing back. That's where we're going. That's where this president is going. Bring it back. Yeah. So will there be distortions? Of course. Foreign goods may get a little more expensive, but American goods are going to get cheaper, and you're going to be helping Americans by buying American.
All right.
Then there's a bunch of gibberish by Howard Lutnick, Trump's Commerce Secretary, when he says that, look, maybe there won't be tariffs on April 2nd because Trump delayed the tariffs on Canada and Mexico till April 2nd. By the way, Canada's tariffs are still on the United States because Canada's like, we're not going to continue in this cycle. Take your tariffs off, walk away, or we're hitting you with tariffs, and we're actually increasing our tariffs. But here Howard Lutnick says, look, once fentanyl ends, then our tariff threats will end and our tariffs on. Once fentanyl ends, oh, by the way, the same time the Trump administration or the Trump regime is gutting Medicaid services, gutting the types of assistance to people who are addicted to drugs. But watch what Lutnick says. Play this clip.
Well, second, that's going to be reciprocal tariffs, and I'm happy to talk about that. But let's try to keep those two different.
Okay, understood. But you say he's not going to take his foot off the gas. Does that mean these are permanent tariffs? Mr. Secretary, can you provide clarity, yes or no?
If fentanyl ends, I think these will come off. But if fentanyl does not end or he's uncertain about it, they will stay this way until he is comfortable. This is black and white. You got to save American lives. So with respect to fentanyl, this is about the border and fentanyl, and that's an agreement between the president and the two leaders of Canada. Of course, Justin Trudeau's got a lot to say. Of course, he's leaving in like days, so it's not really that fun to listen to some guy who's trying to create sort of a mess for Canada, which he's trying to do. President Sheinbaum did a much more calm, thoughtful conversation with President Trump, and that's why this is the result. She was able to negotiate it because she said 1,000 more people on the border, stopping fentanyl from coming into this country.
Mr. Secretary.
Now let me show you Donald Trump's head of his National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett. Here he suggests that, look, Canada is really covering up all of the fentanyl that they're bringing into the U.S. That's why the number seems so small. There's a massive Canadian fentanyl cover-up. I mean, these idiots in the Trump regime are not learning their lesson. Canada has stood up to the United States. Canada's sick and tired of the defamation and the bullying and the lies, but the Trump regime continues to do it and places the American markets in peril and puts it already in peril. Here, play this clip.
Core fairness issues. Let's just be fair. Whatever you do to us, we'll do to you. That's what he's asking for in April, and it's not a radical idea at all.
But let me ask, because I am confused now about what you're saying about this being a drug war, not a trade war. So let's just take Canada. Mm-hmm. I mean, you said Canada's shipping fentanyl into the United States. I mean, I don't think that's happening. Sure. I mean, 1% of fentanyl is being smuggled across the border. 1%. I mean, Canada's not a major source at all of fentanyl in the United States, are they?
Well, yes, they are a major source. And I can tell you that in the Situation Room, I've seen photographs of fentanyl labs in Canada that the law enforcement folks were leaving alone. Canada's got a big drug problem, even in their own cities. Go walk around, Toronto and see what it's like. And you'll see that it is a big problem. And frankly, we have intelligence that Mexican cartels operate in Canada as well. And so if you want to get the cartels out of the U.S., you got to get them out of Canada and Mexico.
And then here you have Trump's National Economic Council head, Kevin Hassett, by the way, who's been wrong about everything in his life. Like, he's the guy in 1999 who predicted that the stock market was about to boom right before you had the .com crash. He goes, it's about to hit 36,000. And then it literally crashed. The Trump regime is made up of the biggest, dumbest people who have just survived off of grifting, and then they come back. And here he admits, yes, we're in a trade war. We're in a trade war right now when they're not trying to use that rhetoric of trade war. But here he just, again, another admission. Play this clip.
If you're saying that this is an effort to make them crack down and it's worked.
It's working. Yes, it's working.
Then why are these tariffs the very same tariffs going back into effect on April 2nd?
Well, we'll see what happens. So what's going on with the trade war is that we're going to have reciprocal tariffs in April. What's going on with the drug war is we're trying to make progress.
So there is a trade war.
In April, there's going to be a reciprocal tariff. And then if they lower their tariffs, we'll lower ours. But between now and then, the act that created the tariffs that you're seeing in Canada and Mexico was 100% about progress in the drug war. And that's the clear meaning of the executive order the president signed and the clear focus of the intel briefings we're getting almost every day.
Here he is again. Let's play it.
The Wall Street Journal editorial board this week suggested the tariffs aren't legal, but then they also wrote this. He's treating the North American economy as a personal plaything as markets gyrate with each presidential whim. How do you respond to the Wall Street Journal?
Well, I think what the president's trying to do is make it so that when we produce something, we produce it at home. Make no mistake, the trade deficit with Canada and Mexico, they accumulate to about $1 trillion a year. Add China, it's $1.5 trillion. And in a free market that didn't have any kind of finger on the scale, then what we'd see would be that those trade deficits would decline over time as currencies adjusted. But that's not happening. And so what happens now is, for example, in a typical month, $35 billion worth of cars are imported, and our manufacturers export about $13 billion worth of cars. And those are all jobs that Americans don't have. President Trump wants to bring the jobs home, bring the wealth home, and bring the wages home. And
then you have MAGA Republican Senator Rick Scott, who was involved before becoming a politician in the biggest Medicaid fraud in American history at that time. He invoked the Fifth Amendment quite literally hundreds of times. And here Rick Scott basically says, oh, look. This isn't Donald Trump's fault. All of this is happening is Biden's fault. Here, play this clip.
Quickly, if you could, sir, President Trump has acknowledged that there's going to be a little disturbance due to his economic policies. How bad is this disturbance going to be, and how long is it going to last?
Well, first off, Donald Trump walked in with a crappy economy. The number of full-time jobs have been dropping almost the entire Biden administration. This is a lot of work. Now, manufacturing jobs are coming back. That had not been happening under Biden. That's a big deal. The number one thing is we got to get American manufacturing back into this country. So I'm very optimistic that we're going to get this done. Now, is it work to balance the budget? Yeah, it's work. All right. We're going to stop wasting money. So people are going to go build. We're going to go start building the private sector again and stop growing the public sector.
Right,
That's going to cause some people to change jobs.
Your constituents that are living paycheck to paycheck. How long is this disturbance going to last?
Well, the disturbance is the 20% inflation under Biden, the fact there's no full-time jobs. So it's already changing. We're already adding full-time jobs. We've already added 10,000 manufacturing jobs just last month. I'm very optimistic it's going to happen very quickly.
Okay. I mean, inflation was high, but it was not 20%. Senator Rick Scott.
It's all they do is blame Biden. By the way, here you have MAGA Republican Congressmember Van Drew. And here Congressmember Van Drew says, you know, look, the real issue, what Donald Trump is saying, is it's the trade deals are unfair. We've entered into the dumbest trade deals. What do you mean, Van Drew? MAGA Republican Van Drew, the USMCA, the deal that Trump negotiated, the deal that Trump said, oh, it's like the USMCA. It's the greatest, most bigly beautiful deal during the first administration. Here, play this clip.
All President Trump is saying here is it's been unfair. And the trade agreements that China and other countries have negotiated with the United States of America, in some cases, have been blatantly unfair. Why is it okay to be unfair to America? Why do we have trade agreements where American goods get hurt and American products aren't bought? That's not right. So he's trying to, number one, level the playing field. And real quickly here, second thing that he wants to do is he's negotiating. He's negotiating to make sure we stop that flow of fentanyl. He's negotiating to make sure that we get better deals. He knows what he's doing with this, and Congress should stand behind him. I do. It may be a little bumpy at first. All of this, by the way, may be a little bumpy at first, but it's going to get better, and at the end of the day, it'll be good.
All right. And just so I can bring receipts when I do these videos, I'll go with the right-leaning Wall Street Journal. This is how they describe the American economy during the Biden administration. Right-wing, Wall Street Journal, owned by Murdoch, envy of the world. U.S. economy expected to keep powering higher. Economists lift their growth forecast in the latest Wall Street Journal survey. How about this opinion piece by Paul Krugman? Our economy isn't Goldilocks. It is better than Goldilocks. How about this from Axios? As well, from July 12, 2024. Just right inflation opens the door to Goldilocks economy. Under former President Biden, inflation was about to hit 2%. It's exactly where you wanted it. He had brought inflation down, the inflation that was caused by the first Trump administration because Trump added $8 trillion to the debt and grossly mishandled COVID, which had to be dealt with, which spiked the prices. And then you had the Inflation Reduction Act and other measures by former President Biden that led to that soft landing when every economist predicted 100% chance of recession. Biden stably got us out of that. But, you know, Donald Trump screwed it all up in under 60 days. And then here Donald Trump says on Barteroma, we had record-setting inflation under Biden. He blames his own inflation first on Biden, and then he brings back the inflation with the same failed policies, but even worse. Here, play this clip.
You wouldn't have had inflation. We had record-setting inflation under Biden. It was a killer.
You may
it's
get
one
it
of the
again.
reasons I won the election.
But you may get it again with these tariffs, right? I
You
mean,
may get
one
it.
CEO said to me, my input costs have already started to go up.
Well,
I'm going to have to raise prices.
In the meantime, guess what? Interest rates are down for the last 3-4 days at good levels. I mean, you know, when you add interest rates, you're talking about it's gone down. I've been saying, let's get interest rates down. You know, nobody ever gets rich when the interest rates are high because people can't borrow money.
And now you see headlines like this. Tariff war risks sinking the world into depression. A new Great Depression, says the Chamber of Commerce, the International Chamber of Commerce. Over here, how uncertainty from Trump's tariffs is rippling through the economy. Trump's tariffs cause chaos in the auto industry. The two-headed monster, stagflation, could be back. These are all very bad. Stagflation means GDP decline, significant GDP decline, while inflation increases. It's like the worst of the worst. But Trump's like, oh, but interest rates could go down while we're in a Great Depression. These people are the biggest morons ever. And you hear them admitting it. And their whole language right now is, oh, the American people need to have short-term suffering. The American people need to detox. This is a detox period. It's so utterly ridiculous. Anyway, we'll keep fighting for you every step of the way. We'll expose this. We'll keep covering the protests that we've been covering. We'll keep covering the Bernie rallies. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.